Alright, your favourite YouTuber is sick as a dog. I'm all stuffy, but you know what? It's May, summer is right around the corner, and you might want to get in tip-top shape, tip-top condition by the time the summer rolls around. You need to act now. That's your problem, because it's right here. But never fear, never fret, because I've got over 12 steps for you today to drop 10 pounds by the time summer gets here. Okie doke, first thing you're going to do is remove your top 3 calorie leaks. Now, junk foods are really, really obvious. Just getting any junk out of your diet could already siphon off a huge amount of calories from your daily diet and get that scale moving alone without actually having to do anything else with your diet. So that's a no-brainer. But also, and this is the trick, consider those healthy but still really calorie-rich foods, things like nut butters, granola, medjool dates, other dried fruit, the oat milk that people put in their lattes and whatnot. Oh, I'm not having dairy, I'm not having cow's milk anymore. Okay, good start. But oat milk is really, really calorific, right? And so think about this like your financial budgeting every day. You only have a certain amount of calories to spend. You want those calories to get you as far as they can in terms of satisfaction, but not tip you over into a calorie surplus, which is obviously the opposite of what we want to happen here. Now, letting go of those big, heavy calorie hitters, it's hard because that stuff is tasty, it's rich, your body loves it because it's a great energy source. But honestly, a couple of days, couple of weeks without it, you start getting it out of your regular rotation of foods, and you do actually detach from it over time. Step number 2, it won't always be perfect, but most of your meals should look like the following: carb source plus protein source plus big vegetable portion plus measured fats. I'm going to talk about my favorite sources for the carbs, protein, fats in just a second, so bear with me, we'll come to that. And there's a reason why I put special emphasis on the measured fats there. We'll come to that also in a second. But the point I just want to make here is, you don't need to cut the fruit, you don't need to cut the carbs, you don't need to do the keto thing. It's not the fat you eat, it's the fat you wear. You can eat all this variety, different food groups, get enough of each macronutrient and still maintain that calorie deficit. That is possible, and actually I think it's the best way to still feel satisfied while dropping weight without having to do some unnecessarily restrictive, or I'm going to try and ostracize a whole macronutrient, which is ludicrous because they still all perform a different essential function in the body, in my opinion. Number 3, speaking of carbohydrate sources specifically, I love white potato. You've got options here, whole grains, fruit, I love as a carbohydrate source as well, despite all the sugar myths and misconceptions. Love fruit, but where white potato is so good for your cooked meals is that it has a really superior calorie to volume ratio compared to that of whole grains. Whole grains I also love, high fiber content, relatively low caloric density. White potato blows them out the water. And one of the keys to staying satisfied while you lose weight, and therefore making your weight loss plan really, really sustainable, of course, you don't want to be starving every day, that's kind of obvious, is using foods that offer big volume, therefore subsequently big portion size for a small amount of calories. And white potato is incredible for this, highly recommend. Number 4, of course, my favorite protein source is now I follow a plant-based approach. If you're not familiar, no, you don't need to write in the comments like you're gonna die, you're gonna shrivel up, you're skinny, like I've heard it all before, I promise. I can assure you, you're not gonna offer any new refreshing insult or insight that I haven't heard a million times. Not really that interested what you've got to say, you little anonymous account on the internet here. Don't really care, save it for someone else. But anyway, I digress. My favorite plant protein sources are as follows: beans, lentils, tofu, and seitan. Also like a bit of TVP, so we'll throw that in as number 5 here. That's really versatile. Notice I don't mention tempeh. Now, I'm always asked about tempeh, and I always forget to talk about it. Reason I don't often mention tempeh on lots of my lists is, for weight loss anyway, it's really high in caloric density, so yeah, it's really high in protein. I actually really like tempeh. I know not everyone does. I like the taste and texture of tempeh. If you marinate it correctly, it's delicious and rich, but the calorie density, if you're to say that tofu and tempeh were brothers and sisters because they often get compared, I just much like tofu as part of a weight loss plan because of the volume per calorie that it actually provides. Tempeh, it's not so good in that regard. You only get to use a small amount per calorie. Step 5, you're going to make sure you add volume foods to every meal you realistically can. Okay, sometimes there'll be something fast you grab on the go, or you don't have, these fresh produce in stock. That's fine. But generally speaking, you want to be bulking out your meals without adding loads of calories with the following: non-starchy veg, including our mushrooms, is really, really good for this. Berries, not all fruit is amazing for this. Banana and mango is a bit high in caloric density, but berries, citrus fruits I love, melon, amazing, watermelon, especially, such a high water content. Subsequently, it doesn't contain that many calories. And of course, cauliflower rice and things like zucchini noodles. Again, these might count as non-starchy veggies really, but just coming slightly into their own category. It's a bit of a different thing. Cauliflower rice, throwing a cup of cauliflower rice hardly adds any calories to a meal, but you get all of that volume, that increase in perceived and physiological fullness and satisfaction there. So volume foods, they are the way. You don't need skimpy portions to lose weight, you just need to design your meals correctly in the first instance. Step number 6, I've said many times that meal scheduling and timing is really down to preference, whether you do intermittent fasting, whether you do multiple small meals, whether you do more or less snacks, that's really up to you. I'm just going to tell you what's worked really nicely for me and my clients historically, and it's not blowing calories too earlier in the day. Most people, they don't have this ravenous appetite first thing in the morning, but they still want to eat something that's productive for their energy levels throughout the day. So this is why we like this idea of a small breakfast, moderate lunch, big dinner feast with a couple of snacks in between. Again, the bottom line is you finish each and every day in a calorie deficit. How you distribute those calories, that really is up to you, and you should consider not what does Ryan do and I'm just going to copy and paste that, but what is best for my adherence. I'm just reporting back that widely, population-wise, I really found this formula to be highly effective. 650 plus clients through the program. Virtually every single one since 2019 I've put on small breakfast, moderate lunch, big dinner feast, works a treat. Number 7, somewhere, I think I indicated this earlier on, with emphasis on measured fats in, I think, what it was at step number 2. No freestyling with those fat sources. This is really important. So I love my fat-rich plant foods like avocado, hummus I love tahini-based dressings and whatnot, nuts and seeds, but these all need to be measured. Why? Because they are so much more calorically rich than, what else have I mentioned? White potato, cauliflower rice, fruit. Again, these are all different things, but these fat-rich plant foods, they have such a high calorie density that even if your measurement is slightly wrong, that could be the difference between an extra 50 or 100 calories over the day on top of your diet, 150 calories. So like you don't have the margin for error that you have with these other things to be a bit more liberal. Now I think you should weigh and measure pretty much all of your food, to be honest. There's some foods you can eat quite freely, but most of your food should actually be measured, to be honest, for the best chance of success. That's really, really precise. But there is some stuff that realistically you can afford to be a bit, loose, fast and loose with. Measured fats ain't one of them. That's the point I'm trying to make. Be really diligent. Make sure you're really using that 15 grams of nut butter. Step number 8, stop cooking with oil at home. It's a calorie bomb. When you go out to eat or someone cooks for you, it's slightly different. You don't want to be such a nuisance that you're asking for it without oil. Most people in a restaurant, especially here in Europe, they're going to look at you like you're out of your mind, especially in any Mediterranean countries, for asking for food without oil. But it is a calorie bomb, so just avoid it at home, and you can save like that a couple of hundred calories every day by simply not using oil. That's how calorific it can be. Instead, I like to saute with soy sauce, vegetable broth, or simply just water. Just make sure you're seasoning generously and your food still tastes amazing. If you are reliant on oil for taste, and then you obviously remove oil, well, you're buggered, aren't you? You're screwed, because there's nothing else there contributing to the taste and texture of your meal. So use other stuff, condiments, herbs, and spices. Step number 9, I don't pride myself on being transparent, but I want to be I feel obliged. It's not just, oh, I'm the transparent guy and I love that shtick. No, I actually feel I'm obligated to be transparent about all my little mistakes and my deviations. I had an almond croissant this morning before making this video, little rascal. So I am not some perfect Puritan, 100% whole foods only all around the clock. My only rule is that I keep it vegan. It's been 10, 11 years. There's a big ethical reason for this for me personally. And so whatever you do, not judging, that's totally fine. But I'm just saying that's my only rule. I'm not like a perfect strict eater around the clock, but one thing that you must do, I feel so strongly about in a weight loss phase, is limit yourself to just 1 or 2 meals out per week. Put some kind of rule in place and try and make it a sensible choice. Don't treat it like a big blowout or a cheat meal or a cheat day and you're having desserts and appetizers and a glass of wine on the side, because the calories are just going to go like this and you might undo all your other hard work in the calorie deficit the rest of the week. But you don't want this simultaneously. On the flip side, this is where I make these concessions. You don't want this to be so strict that you actually resent it, that you don't feel like you've got a social life. It doesn't want to feel too brutal. So just this idea of like setting a rule, like 1 or 2 meals out per week, but I'm still going to keep them relatively sensible. I'm going to go out for a poke bowl, vegetables, sushi. I'm going to make a better choice. I'm not going to be so gluttonous. It's technically untracked, but I'm not going to be so wild with it. And that's much better, by the way, than like lots of small treats daily. You know that people grab a handful of M&Ms, they're preparing something for their kids, and they lick a tablespoon of Nutella. And these might be like innocent seeming things in isolation, and you might say they are, but tot it up over the day, tot it up therefore every single day over the course of a week. Again, you've put yourself at risk of being in that calorie surplus again, when actually you could just be in your calorie deficit very strictly on point every day, have that fun one, like try and concentrate all of your fun deviation around food on that one meal out per week. It's a much safer, more controlled way to do it actually. Step number 10, always prep for those long work/travel days. So things I love for this are bean and hummus wraps, chickpea salad sandwiches. That's right, I use bread on my plan, a nice whole wheat rice, sourdough bread, minimum ingredients, high fiber content, really good bread options. Again, we're not scared of carbs, we're not scared of fruit, bread, etc., etc. It's just about being in the calorie deficit. That really is the whole enchilada. Overnight oats is a really good travel option, I know. I know not everyone loves overnight oats because of the texture and that sort of thing, and like if you leave them too long, then they start getting warm in your glove box, your glove compartment, but that's a good option for travel. Fresh fruit snacks as well, maybe some rice cakes. You want some non-perishable things there, like rice cakes that you've always got in your truck, maybe some, so this is where you can use like a little bit of dried fruit, even though it's calorie dense, or maybe something like a Lara bar, Naked Bar for my friends in the UK. These are really good options, so you've got that backup plan. And look, if you end up doing a bit of a higher calorie day because you're leaning on some of these more like healthy snack options, that's okay. It's still better than grabbing pizza or Taco Bell on the way home and making some really bad choice. Number 11, we've talked exclusively about food so far, so let's finally do the exercise here. Walk daily. This is my big mandate. This is really important. There's no magic step number. I know people are always touting 10, 15K, 20K. Now it's 20K steps per day, which is just really unrealistic, frankly, for most people, especially if they're not living in a walkable city. Honestly, there's no magic number for this, but as a general rule of thumb, of course, I'm going to say more steps equals more calories burned equals better advantage from a weight loss perspective. But really just make your first rule to start with. I'm going to get some movement in daily, especially because you guys are a large portion of my audience, especially my North Americans, because you do get in your cars for every convenience under the sun versus very pedestrian Europe. So get those steps in, my North American friends. Step number 12, hard workouts and formal cardio. These are actually not required. You might be thinking, well, hold on, summer's around the corner, Ryan. I thought you were giving me this big gung-ho battle plan to get in shape, in tip-top shape for the beach. No, because sometimes the more hard you push, I found this out the hard way, the more hard you push with exercise, the more crazy the fight back is on the other end, the pushback, I should have said, is on the other end of this. And that's because those hard workouts, that really tough cardio and high intensity stuff, it can send your appetite absolutely haywire, which can actually just move more and eat less. So it's hard to eat less if you're burning through your glycogen all the time and you're just therefore, your brain, body is just signaling, we need more fuel, we need more fuel. It's really difficult. If you are very eager, just start with the gentle stuff. So get yourself in the gym, but you don't want to go balls to the wall straight away, especially if you've been out of the gym for a little while. And maybe with the cardio stuff, start with, I recommend the more steady state, slow go movement, like high incline walking on a treadmill at quite a gentle pace, a little bit of pedaling on the recumbent bike in the gym, get a little sweat on, but nothing too crazy. Do that a couple of times a week in conjunction with, again, the fitness foundation, those daily steps. That's where most of your calorie burn should and is most realistically going to come from. Step number 13 now, we're going well over 12, so stick with me here. Tracking calories is not a must. This one might be controversial to some of my fellow coaches. Tracking calories is actually not a must. It's not. You can actually be in a calorie deficit without necessarily meticulously tracking every calorie you eat. Obviously, it's less precise. Obviously, it's less guaranteed, but there's a lot of people in my audience, they don't want to start with the calorie tracking stuff, and actually that might be so overwhelming that it's off-putting and it actually threatens their compliance early on. So just giving people simple rules to start, like hopefully I'm sharing today, I think is really, really fine at first, and then you can graduate to the more advanced, nuanced data collection, looking at the numbers, thinking about fiber, carbs. You can do all of that a little bit later on once you got up and running and the first couple of pounds off. But essentially what I wish to say here, I digress, is if that scale hasn't budged in 7 to 10 days, so you've hit that plateau and you're not actually tracking your calories, so you're not really sure what's going wrong, you might have to swallow your pride, is what I wish to say. Start tracking for a couple of days and then reduce your calories from there immediately. Don't delay on this. I think a lot of people, they waste weeks and weeks in a plateau thinking, oh, I'm eating healthy, so I'm doing the right stuff, I'm doing the stuff that I was doing earlier on when I started this process and I was actually losing weight back then. Something's gonna click, it's eventually gonna work. No, it doesn't work like this. The body responds pretty quickly to a very effective plan and strategy. It responds pretty quickly actually to a calorie deficit. Not day-to-day fluctuations, we ignore that, but check the weekly trend, make sure you're going downwards overall, and if you're not, track your calories, reduce them slightly, do it straight away so you don't lose time. And 14, actually this is the last step. If you do go off plan, the next meal is back on track. That's the commitment you make. I'm not perfect, as I mentioned earlier on, with my little almond croissant obsession now and again. But when I do have that slip up, planned or frankly unplanned, when I've deviated, my commitment is I get back on track. I used to do this thing years ago, I'm sure you'll resonate, where one little crack in the dam, the whole house of cards comes down. I'm spiraling then for the whole weekend and then kidding myself that I'll be back on track Monday. And again, this is how you lose these huge periods of time where you're not actually getting results. Not only that, you're staying in this paradigm that everyone always complains about, the all or nothing with food, the all or nothing with dieting and weight loss. The only way to get over that is by forcing yourself to get back on track, develop that recovery speed / bounce back ability, signal to your brain that that's how you do things now, and it'll be much easier to respond like that in time. It doesn't have to be this, oh, one slip and the whole house of cards comes down. No, you just need to train your brain to expect to get back on track, and that gets much easier in time. And that's it. That's my battle plan to start getting in tip-top shape before the summer comes around. Yeah, I admit you're a little bit late to the party, but there's no perfect time. There's no waiting until you're ready. Let's get going right now. You might not have abs by the time that your vacation rolls around, but hey, wouldn't it feel awesome to at least be 10, 12, 15 pounds down at least by then? And if you want me to eliminate all the guesswork, you resonate with what I've said today, but it's a lot of thinking, it's a little bit overwhelming. If you want me to literally just tell you exactly what and how much to eat, what to do for exercise, and of course to hold you very importantly accountable every step of the way so you can lose that 10, 15, 20 pounds in the coming months without all the trial and error of trying to figure this out on your own, then fill out the form down at my website. I'll put it in the description box below. I'll put the link to the website down below. Fill out my short form there, a couple of questions. I'll be in touch to show you exactly what it looks like to have me work with you through every step of this process on my coaching program. Okay, speak soon.